morning, everyone. Can you believe it? It's our 5th episode of the Game Changers. And we have a real game changer tonight in the house, the one and only Bob Long. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the Sports Affiliation for giving Wendi and me this wonderful platform, for Iggy, JC, and the crew for believing in us and for their continuous support. Before we start this episode tonight and introduce our guest, my co-host Wendi would like to say a few words. For you,
Thank you,
Wendi.
Ms. Carla. Yes. I know that October is Breast Cancer Month, and we're very respectful of that. And we have acknowledged that in our last show, but today happens to be World Mental Health Day. And this was established in 1992 as an official, thing to talk about. So, I've seen a lot of things on Twitter today, and people are talking and they're telling their experiences and how they're feeling. And this is huge. To me, this is huge because I guarantee you that most of you either have family, friends, yourself that all suffer from mental health problems. And I don't know if suffer is the right word, but, struggle. I would say it's a struggle sometimes. But I've seen so much positivity online today, and that's kind of something different. Doesn't happen all the time. So there were a couple things that stuck out to me. And I do have a lot of friends who were commenting, but I didn't ask them if I could say their name. So I'm not going to name anybody. But here's some of the things that stuck out to me, and I'll go real quick. Make time for yourself and take breaks. It's necessary. You have to do that. It's okay to have bad days. It's totally okay. You deserve love, care, and support. Allow yourself to feel. Don't ignore and hide your feelings. Try to hear and accept them. Listen to your emotions and what they are trying to tell you, because they are trying to tell you things. And the one that I really liked the most was the same good you see in others is within you too. So, if anybody, the Sports Affiliation has been such a great platform because they're so positive and they take these things seriously and they want this to be a great community. So please, any of us, are available. My DMs are open. Carla's DMs are open. All of the people in this community, your DMs are pretty open. So please reach out if anybody needs anything. I'm here for you. So thank you for that, Carla.
Thank you so much, Wendi. I agree totally with you. So let's go ahead and say hi to Bob Long tonight.
Hi, Bob.
I really thought about a million things to say about you, Bob. I couldn't manage to find the right intro for the real game changer. Like, I know that you've been playing fantasy football since 1985, and you're the founder of the Expo, and you created the King's Classic Fantasy Football Expert Draft in 2018. And you have under your belt many leagues, titles, championships, and more. I can't wait to hear more and more about this game changer, Bob Long.
So, thank you, ladies. Thank you for having me. Honored to be here. I love this new show format you ladies have. Just great to see so many women just making such a big impact in this community, and you two are right on that list right now. So thank you again for having me.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. It's like you're kind of like the Godfather here, okay?
I'm that old. I mean, I probably am the oldest guy. Well, I don't know. Greg Kellogg's on here. I think he's got me by a few years.
Well, it's such an honor. When you said you were going to come on the show when we asked, and no hesitation, by the way, I was like, oh my God, Bob Long said yes. He said yes, he'd be honored to come on the show. I'm like, what? Honored? So thank you again.
No. By the way, Greg is 24, Bob. So just saying.
I told you he's older. I'm 25, so I got him by a year.
Oh, missed it by that much.
That much. See, I thought I had him by a year there. So 24, 25. It's close enough.
That's amazing. Do you want to tell me a little bit about your fantasy football journey, and what's the main reason you were involved in fantasy football?
So like you said, the 1985, and I remember like it was yesterday, one of my best friends growing up, since we were like 5 years old, so this is 1985. So I am 22 at that time. And so he calls me, he says, hey, come over to my house. I got this book I bought at the bookstore today. I wanted to show it to you. And it was this little book. It was like a pamphlet book. Like it wasn't even full size. It was like, paperback, maybe 50 pages. And it was just called Playing Fantasy Football by Chris Charpentier. No idea who that guy was at the time. Now I know he was kind of an innovator. It actually kind of was a big deal in getting the thing started. And so, we're reading this and I'm like, sounds like a blast. Sure. And of course I got to be the commissioner because I was the only one that actually had like a personal computer. Like in 1985, I worked for an accounting firm. So we actually had access to, PCs with like 250, 56 kilobyte hard drive, floppy drive, or I used Lotus 123. Like there was no such thing as Microsoft or Office or anything at that point. And so, every week I would print out 12 pages of the report of who won, who lost, what their standings were, put them in 12 envelopes with 12 addresses, 12 stamps, mailed them every Wednesday. They'd get them on Friday.
Oh my goodness.
Sunday morning, I would come home from
crazy.
church. I'd have 43 messages on my phone with all the rosters that they turned in and last minute changes. And we did that until basically internet was created and it started doing scoring for us. And we didn't think anything of it. In fact, we called ourselves the Hall of Fame Fantasy League because we had our first draft in the Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Fame. And the reason why was we went to high school with this kid and his dad was the executive director. So we went in and said, hey, John, can we use like your boardroom or something? We want to do a fantasy football draft. He said, what's that? I go, I don't know. It's this thing where we draft players and keep scores and just pay whatever the entry, $10 or whatever it was to get into the hall. He said, just pay your entry fee and you guys can have the boardroom on Sunday. So, Saturday, whatever it was, it's all yours. So we did. We had a draft there and we had our first draft there. We actually did drafts, I think, almost 10 years there in a row before we didn't stop having it. So, we call ourselves the Hall of Fame Fantasy League, and that's what we're still, next year will be our 40th year. And 40 years strong, we still have, I think, 7 out of the 12 original members. We still do touchdown only. We still do an auction draft with salary cap and keepers and still going on today. So
do you still stuff the envelopes and mail them in the mail?
Oh yeah, no, that does not happen anymore. But
is that why you do the expo? Is that why you do the expo at the Hall of Fame because of how you started?
Well, yeah, and because it's much cooler to have things at the Hall of Fame than at like a hotel. That's why I bring people to Canton. It's the place where football is there, alive. It's a perfect place. It's kind of centrally located. I'm in the Midwest. And there's just a lot of reasons to hold it here, but obviously the biggest one is because I live here.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Well, you guys do all the work, so it should be more convenient for you. So for sure.
Yeah. But it's and it's also pretty cost effective. We're not going to Vegas and dropping $400 a night for a hotel and $20 for a drink.
It would cost me a lot more if we went to Vegas. Trust me.
Absolutely. So, a lot of people have said that. Why don't you hold it here? Why don't you hold it in a bigger city? Why don't you hold it in Vegas? And it's just because I don't think we'd have the same camaraderie and, togetherness that we have in Canton. I told people if they come to Canton and they're bored and they want to do something outside of the expo, then I'm not doing my job. The idea of coming into the expo, it should be nonstop activities. Now, you could pick and choose activities. Right. But it should be nonstop activities, whether you're touring the hall, going to a draft, have, this party, that party, the flag football, all that stuff. That's all because it all should be us entertaining you folks coming into town. It shouldn't be, well, I'm bored for the next 3 hours. What am I going to do? No, it should never be that. And that's why, and I learned that from Pro Football Hall of Fame weekend, which is the week before. And as you know, I've been a driver for 34 years for them. As a volunteer, and so I've seen that, and I know that that's what they do. There's always something to go to all weekend long, and because they want you to be in that experience. They call it not a weekend, an experience. So it's a big difference. So that's what I learned kind of from that, and how I built the expo to be very engaging, very fun, busy, but not overwhelming. So
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you probably work year round on this expo. Is that a fair statement?
It's close enough. Yeah. I mean, when it ends, I kind of, obviously take some time to obviously when it ends, then I'm ramping up Big Guy Fantasy Sports for my website, for my articles, for, of course, the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide is out all summer. So that stuff is just nonstop. But, I'm always thinking, asking folks out on Twitter, hey, where can we make improvements? Meeting people, telling them about it, trying to get new sponsors, so it's kind of an ongoing, but not overwhelming,
I mean, that's got to take a pretty big spreadsheet to lay all these things out, all these schedules, because there is so much going on there. And it's almost like a music festival. It's like you got to pick and choose what you can go to because there's only so much that you can cram into a weekend.
Well, that's why we record, all
that's
the
awesome
sessions, because people don't, they're like, I wanted to go to see Scott Fish, but I also wanted to go see, the getting started in fantasy, but I wanted to see the women in fantasy. I wanted to see, so we record them all. So if you don't get to one, at least you can still see it after the fact, because that would be terribly difficult if we didn't. And everybody like, well, some people may go, I just, we all want to go see this one, Dez is talking or whatever. And I don't want them to feel like, oh, I'm at the same time Dez and nobody's going to show up. Well, you may get limited people, but the good thing is there will be a video afterwards that you can bring off YouTube, share on LinkedIn or not LinkedIn, on Twitter or wherever you want to share it, and show people, hey, here's our presentation on our product or our website or, whatever it was,
Well, some people were given, they were given some some ideas about, about this, about the expo and if you can do it like for 2 days in a row. What do you think about that? Can you just do something like that with, instead of, I mean, the video it's fine, but people want to engage more and be present. Would you be able to, would you reconsider of having something like that for at least 2 days, or maybe add more days to the expo? Maybe make it a week?
Yeah, I mean, that might be. Yeah, the problem is the more we expand it, the more people are taking off work. The King's Classic takes up so many of the top names during that 6-hour period on Saturday. That and then once that's over, we go right into the football, flag football. So it's just, there's no time on Saturday to do it. Sunday's the perfect. Would it be nice to maybe do it on Monday? Maybe, but how many days do we make these people take off work?
Bob, I took a poll. Okay, you and your wife were not included in this poll. Okay, but I took a poll and we all decided as a community that there needs to be an expo twice a year. So I don't make the rules, Bob. I'm sorry.
And I love that idea, but my question back would be, fine, when do you want to do it?
Your wife would kill me.
I mean, do we do one in June, like after the draft's over and it's all dynasty and that kind of stuff?
So you're open to this idea, is what? That's what I'm hearing.
Heck yeah, I'm open to it. Sure.
This is breaking news, everyone. This is breaking news.
Again, this was created for the community. It's not created for me. It's not created for my wife. It's not created for anybody other than this community, because I always felt that if we, it's the old, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
But I also knew that I've in my 20 years of being in the industry, I also watched the failure of a lot of expos, not a bunch, or maybe in 3 or 4, but I watched them fail miserably because it was all about the money. It was always about how big they could make it. It was always about the autograph sessions, and it was less about the fantasy people.
Yes,
I went to one in Atlantic City, and it was 2011. I was writing for Roto Experts, who was a big deal at the time. They had Scott Engel, Adam Ronis, Dr. Roto. I was there, Jake Seeley, all these people. And so they put on this huge expo at Atlantic City Convention Center, massive place. But the problem is they also had autograph sessions in the back. And so people literally were paying the $80 to get in the door, walked past all the fantasy booths, went and got the autographs, and walked right back out.
Yeah.
And there was a story I heard. Jeff Ratcliffe was talking one day on Sirius XM, and he said that day him and Mike Clay were on stage. Two of the biggest names in fantasy sports were on stage, and there were 2 people in the audience to listen to him. Wow. That was it.
That's huge.
And it was just wasn't, it didn't work. And so I learned from that and said, we're not going to be that big. If we do, it's going to grow naturally. It's not going to be start there. It's going to be, hey, we'll start, see what it does, maybe grow a little bit, see what happens.
That's what happened. That's
exactly what happened. Yeah. So,
I agree.
Your very first expo, I want to say I heard a little bit about that story. It was something like, it was just a few guys in a room.
People. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about your wife and kids. I can't. Like, I love your wife. I love her. I got the chance. I got the chance to talk to her. The first year, we didn't have a chance to talk a lot, but the second year, like, we got connected. And then to know that your girl as well, taking pictures and videos of people and running around, and this is huge. And then I think I saw your parents as well at the expo.
My mother was there, yeah. So my father passed away a long time ago, but my mom was there with her friend. And she just comes. And the only reason she comes, just so that she can hear people brag about her son. That's
amazing.
Well,
amazing.
He's entitled to that.
So happy, and it's so awesome that I'm your mother. I'm like, Mom, you've been through this before. You know how awesome I am. We don't have to keep telling you.
Of course, yes. And I love this family. Like, it's not just about you in the expo. You are bringing your family so they can be with you. And you're bringing families as well. Like this year, I saw a lot of kids come in, a lot of, it was like, I have goosebumps, really. It was amazing to see. I came last year, and this is my second year, and I'm like, I'm hooked. I'm not.
So that one family, go ahead.
No, I'm not like a fantasy football girl yet.
Right.
But
yet. She said yet.
Yeah.
I'm hooked.
Doug hasn't hooked you this well, right?
It's because of the expo. Yeah.
But no, there was a family there. And you probably remember them, husband, wife, 2 young kids, 1 boy, 1 girl, 10-ish, 8 to 10-ish. Yep. And his name is James Knight. And the funny thing is he now writes for Big Guy Fantasy Sports. Said he's always wanted to write for a site. And when I posted that I was looking for writers, he said, I don't know if you remember me. I was the one that we took a picture with you, because I said it was the first family of fantasy football, because it was wife and kids. And I said, oh, yeah, I know who you are. Yeah. And he goes, yeah. I said, yeah, you can definitely come and race. So he's all excited. He's part of this.
Oh,
doing a great job.
Cool.
That's the kind of just great stuff that comes out of this that is so much more than what I ever envisioned, this to be. And I'm going to tell the story because I want to make sure we talk about this. Wendi brought up mental health. All right. And it's very important. I get choked up over this one. The first year, so 2021, we came back out of COVID, all this stuff. And somebody, and I can't remember who it was, and I want to say it's Hoove, and I don't think it is, but somebody wrote an article about their high anxiety problems and how they were very scared to death to come to the expo because of high anxiety, not good around groups of people, especially large groups of people. And they came to the event and they wrote this amazing article about how this community made them feel so welcome. And that meant the world to me.
It does. You're building a family, Bob. You're building a family. That's just amazing.
But yeah, my real family, they're amazing. I definitely couldn't do it without my wife because she
works her tail off. She was working the whole time there.
Oh yeah, she has to run the weekend because I can't.
Yeah.
So she's there, and my kids are there, and the other people you saw are best friends from high school, neighbors down the street,
boyfriend,
friends, and they're all, so we throw a big party for them a couple weeks after the expo, and come bring them over for dinner and food and drinks and thank them profusely, because they do make it happen. That's for sure.
Yeah.
For that weekend.
Bob, honest to God, I don't know if you realize the magnitude of what you've done. I mean, I wouldn't know any of these people, and I love these people. I mean, I love these people in this community, and I wouldn't know any of them if it weren't for you, because you started this. So thank you, Bob.
Like I said, thank you, and you're quite welcome, and thank you folks for coming. And I always tell people, look, just because I put it on doesn't mean people are going to show up. I thank all of the big names, the Bob Harrises, the Mike Clays, the Andy Barons, and all these folks, because if they don't show up, if they don't recognize what this is and what it's for, then who shows up? If I can't get the big names to come to this and support this and be behind it, if they don't think it's worth it, then this is never going to work. So the fact that those people have been right there from the beginning, in support of the King's Classic, which kind of started this whole idea. And then that led into a whole weekend called the Expo. And, if it wasn't for them coming into town on their own dime, I mean, most of those guys aren't getting stuff covered. I mean, even people like Mike Clay was from ESPN. It wasn't being covered by ESPN. He came in on his own money, his own everything. And that means a lot, because some of those guys are coming from California and Floridas and New Hampshires and Vermonts. And so, I know what it's like to go to the FSGA stuff and how expensive it is for travel. So that means so much to me. And it's also, that's why I try to keep the price down for people to spend the weekend, because I say that because I don't want this to be, oh, well, I'd like to come, but it's $200 a weekend. My goal is to try to keep it under $100 forever for the individuals coming in.
Doug and I, we drive 16 hours. Doug and I, 16 hours we drive to be there. And like Greg was saying, he met me and Wendi at the Expo, by the way, and this is how we got.
I met Greg at the flag football or at the football game at the flag football.
So I know Greg's not gonna like you saying this, but what a lot of you folks don't realize is what a big deal Greg is in this industry.
I know now.
A long time. He is one of those people I looked up to long before I ever thought about getting into this world. And I knew who Greg Kellogg is, and when he finally reached out to me and came to this, it just meant the world to me, because I have so much respect for him in what he's done in this industry. He is definitely, you want to talk about a game changer, that boy is a game changer for sure.
And I'm glad that 100%. You mentioned the big names, and Greg's a big name, and all of the big name people that come to the Expo. The great thing about that is they're all accessible. No one is off limits. You walk up to anybody and you can talk to anyone. And everyone was even more than I had hoped for. And I mean, I don't care who you are. I don't get Marcus Grant. That's a huge name. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Marcus Grant, but he stood there and talked like, it's just like you knew each other. So, and you did mention the King and Queens Classic. How do the participants get chosen for that?
Well, so when it first started, the goal was I wanted the best of the best to be represented, whether it's their site or the person that was the picture, the poster boy of the site. So like Matthew Berry didn't come in for ESPN because he was doing so much, but Mike Clay, who was just as smart, and also, was a big name. He comes in every year. So, the Yahoos, Craig went in, we'll get that there.
Get you there.
But, so I just went out to all of them, and, basically everybody said I'm in. And so the first year we did 2 12-team leagues, and we had 24 people. We did the Hall of Fame. I think the thing that not only amazed me was the fact that they came in, was the fact that SiriusXM came in to do it live. Because I was like, wait, they're what? I was hoping that would happen. Because I said I created this because I remember always hearing the best of the best baseball drafts, and they have names for them, Labor and Tout Wars. And I'm like, so I sent an email out to Mike Clay, who I was becoming friends with and an associate with. And I said, Mike, why don't we have a best of the best? And I said, we could do it right here at Canton, Ohio, right in the Hall of Fame. You guys maybe could talk SiriusXM into coming. And then he sent me an email, actually forwarded me an email that was 2 weeks old from Brad Evans. And Brad said the exact same thing and said, all we need is a cool place to hold the draft. And so boom, we two all came together. We had a quick call, and I said, you guys come to town. I'll hold it at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We'll get their big gold jacket lounge, and we'll do it live there. And if you guys can get SiriusXM to do it, that'd be great. And it went off like a charm. We were like the third highest trending hashtag Kings Classic that day. Wow. It was a huge success, and here we are heading into year 6.
And then
that's how it started. And basically, like I said, I was always picking the biggest names that could be there. I'd love to have John Hanson in it, but he just never can be there. Matthew Berry can never be there. And, but they love the idea, but it's just too much out of their schedules. But we have every site represented, every big name that we can get, and we keep adding new ones. We added a half international league, so we've got Mauricio, who you met, and Matt Donnelly from Canada. We've got people from Ireland, people from Brazil. We have people from South Africa, Mexico, obviously. And that just built, and that went into the Queen's Classic, and it's continued.
When did the Queen's Classic start? How long has that been?
Yeah, this was year 1.
Oh, this was the first year.
Yeah, so last year we did the Women of Fantasy, and I put them mistakenly into a small conference room for their session. And there was like 600 people in a room about it was like 10 by 10. And I said, these ladies have a following. So after it was over, I remember reaching out, and I kind of set up a group, or a Twitter DM or a group. And I added all the ladies that were in that. And I said, you know what? I think you proved your worth. I said, we need a Queen's Classic. What do you think? And they're like, oh my gosh, we love this. We got to do this. And I'm like, all right, fine. Consider it done. So I said, you ladies pick out the 14. Yep, there's an IDP Buckets division. Who knows about that? And I said, all right, you pick out the 14 and let's do it. So they had their first draft, and, we got Lisa Ann there. We had, all the big names, everybody from Kendall to Lauren to, gosh, I'm trying to remember them all, Kelly and
Faith was in it. Yeah, I stopped in there for a little bit. It was cool.
They're amazing. They're beautiful, strong women.
Oh,
we got the chance to meet a couple of them, like even here, and they are all strong women.
They're amazing. Gemma Martinez, obviously, she's in it. So yeah, it was just something we always wanted to do. We just didn't know how to do it, and. So I finally just said, well, we started talking about an IDP division and a dynasty and all this kind of stuff. And I said, well, then we really need to have an all-female Queen's Classic. And there we are. And we'll keep continuing that. And, and they've already asked, like, what if we can get a second league together? I said, look, you can find 14 more.
Why not?
There's a lot of rock stars out there.
That's what we're.
That's awesome.
Let's do this. I just might run out of room. Everybody.
They were in the same room. Greg is saying, what's something that you wish you could change about your industry, Bob? And what steps are you taking to make that change?
Wow, I saw that question. I think the one thing that everybody's bothered by is the trolls and the amount of people that just aren't very nice on Twitter. What am I doing to change it? Well, I feel like the Expo changes that, and so when people come to me or others, and I've heard this from others, they'll be like, oh, well, I'd go, but then there'd be, those asshole trolls show up and like, no, there's no trolls here. Mm-hmm. Even though, here's something I will bring up. Do you guys know who Fantasy Receipts are?
Yes, they follow me. I have not followed back. I'm afraid.
So,
I don't know who they are.
You don't know who they are. So Fantasy Receipts, nobody knows who they are. But basically what they do, it's not real nice, but they're not complete idiots about it. But basically they call out when people say, I guarantee ... And when it fails, they will retweet it, showing the receipt of you said this was going to happen. And this obviously was a terrible, terrible take. But here's the thing. They have like 15 or 20,000 followers. So people are taking notice. Now, here's the funny part about all of this. The Fantasy Receipts guys have been to the last 3 Expos.
No way.
Wow. Do you know who they are?
How do you know this, though?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because I saw them post something about the Expo during the weekend. So afterwards, it kind of clicked for me when I saw them posting something. So I reached out to them, I DM'd them, we follow each other. And I said, hey, guys, I thought I saw pictures that you guys put out about the Expo. Were you there? And they're like, yeah, we've been to the last 3.
No.
And I said, well, then one of 2 things. Either one, you really do enjoy it, and that's why you don't say anything bad about it, or you're just being a nice guy. Maybe you like me, and And they're like, well, actually, it's both. I said, okay.
Oh,
they said, no, we think it's a fabulous event. We love it. We would never say anything bad about it. You will never see a bad post. Good luck, Greg, because I don't think if we look behind the mask, then it's not. Then they may not be welcome at the thing. But yeah, they're like, yeah, Bob, we've talked to you, we've met you, and I'm like, of course I didn't.
Okay, but do you think that it's somebody that you know them and they've just created this other account?
No, I don't think it's anybody that's been in the industry for too long. I think it's somebody who just feels like, I don't know, their way of just kind of keeping people in check. I don't know. You could look at it either way. One, hey, they're calling out, they're helping people to say, hey, look, this person was, adamant and guaranteed, and they made a bad call. And this person made a bad call. They don't, and they're not saying you're an idiot. They're just saying hey, we're just trying to hold people accountable for their takes. So that's why I don't put a lot of things.
The Masked Singer football version.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much what they are. So if they're out there listening.
What's the biggest misconception about the industry, Bob? Is there any misconception, and how we work to correct it?
First off, I think, everybody thinks that isn't in the industry, thinks that everybody makes a lot of money, and, nobody has a real job. And, if you're charging for your website, that you must be just rolling in the dough, and it's about as far from the truth. I probably can count on 2 hands how many people work full-time in the industry as a full-time job. Maybe it's more, but maybe let's say it's 50, because I ain't one. Maybe people like Bob Harris, Mike Clay, Andy Behrens, those kind of folks. I mean, I'm sure Doug doesn't do it full-time, does he? Does he have a real job, or
football? No, he's a writer, and
that's all. I mean, he doesn't have any other income other than that.
He writes for FF Today, USA Today, and now he is with the KT Sport. As
so
well.
He's one of the rare ones, yeah. So
and
good
the
for him.
fantasy football, yeah. He's busy.
So like I said, there's very few out there that can do that. If you're in one of that group like Doug, then God bless you that you've gotten to that point. I just never could get to that. I mean,
yeah,
and that's fine. I mean, I don't care. I mean, really, I got really deep into this after all my kids moved out and got empty nested, and they all got their own jobs and their own life. So I couldn't have started the expo and all this stuff when my kids are teenagers. There's just no way. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just want people to realize that, one, we're not making a lot of money off our websites. If you are, good for you. If you're, doing it as a writer, but it's few and far between, that's for sure.
Oh, and maybe we can bring basketball to the Expo, fantasy football. We can bring basketball.
Fantasy football expo, or I'm sorry, fantasy basketball expo.
And Doug can be the official. He's an official too.
There you go. I mean, people would ask me, like, why don't you do this for baseball? Why don't you do that? And I said, well, first off, Canton, Ohio isn't for baseball. If you're going to do baseball, you should do baseball in Arizona in January.
Right. Yeah, right.
But
we play softball, so maybe we can help.
Yeah.
What's funny, so many people have so many ideas to have more tournaments. Yes. So I've heard softball tournament, golf tournament, pickleball tournament. That's like, where are we going to squeeze this in, guys? Going to make a week out of this? Come on.
We should.
Well, speaking of your writing, you did a lot of writing. I was reading your bio, and I'm like, holy cow. I didn't realize that you had gotten that deep into writing. Like I said, I'm kind of new to this, but I will tell you that I did buy the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide last year, and it was I got it on Amazon. I used your link or whatever, and I'm a pen and paper, still like to write stuff down sometimes, and I loved having that book in my hands.
Yeah, it's funny. Everybody thinks that. They're like, oh, do you sell mostly digital copies? I go, no, I sell very few digital copies. It's all the hardbacks or the whatever softness.
Right.
I said very few. I said it's probably less than 2% are actual like digital, read it on a Kindle kind of thing. No.
So how did people
want to take notes?
Right. Well, and how did that consistency guide? How did that get started?
So I had been writing for various magazines, putting just an article in their magazine about my consistency model and my favorite picks. It'd take up 2-3 pages, which I was always honored. Always loved going out and buying my book. I'd be reading it, looking at it, flipping through and finding my stuff. And somebody walk up and go, "Which one are you reading?" I go, "I don't know, but you should."
Yeah, look, this is mine.
Consistency data. I didn't tell him I wrote it. I just said you should get this because this is that's good stuff. Yeah, I think I will get that book. How do you know that? I'm like, yeah, that's me. They're like, what?
Good strategy.
But yeah, so I wrote for these sites for years, and the one I wrote a lot for was it's called the Fantasy Football Guide. Peter Schonert put it out, and Peter loved doing it every year. Always put it in there. And after about maybe a couple years before I did my first book, I said to him, I said, you could expand those profiles and put in consistency data to go along with the regular data that you're showing. What do you think? And he said, I love the idea, but I don't have any room. He goes, I'm already maxed out a number of pages, and then, it's more pages, more money, I need more advertisers. Just didn't work out. He said, why don't you just self-publish your own book? And I said, I didn't know I could do that. He goes, oh, yeah, you can do that on Amazon. You just write it, create a PDF, go read, here's the site, send me the link. Oh, okay. So, just like the expo, why would I not do this? So I did. And, again, same thing, put it out there, sold like 65 copies. I'm like, oh, yeah, super. I'm an author. Yeah. And then, 2 years later, I submitted it to the FSWA, Fantasy Sports Writers America, and I submitted it for their annual awards. And so 2017, I got nominated. I'm like, wow, I thought that was the greatest thing in my life. Like I got nominated.
It's the greatest thing.
Same, category with Bob Harris and NBC Sports and, these great magazines they could put out. And so then the next year I submitted it again and I won. And I was like, now I can't get any better than this, because I never thought I'd ever win this. And now I've been nominated 6 straight years as one of the best guides, and won it in 2018. And I sell 2,000 copies, 2,500 copies. Again, I'm not gonna quit my job over it, but it's nice.
Oh, that's awesome. When we were at the expo, you had copies there, and there was a lady there. She actually wasn't attending, she wasn't like one of us per se. She was a local, and she came because she saw the ads for it, and she bought your book. And I'm like, hey, that guy right there, he's the one that wrote that. She's like, are you serious? And she was so nice. She took pictures of me and Des and stuff like that. And she wanted to come and have you autograph the book, and she was so scared to go and ask you. I'm like, get up there and ask him. He'll do it.
I'm always like, me? You really want me to say? All right, fine.
So at the expo, I was watching you having different strategy with the auction drafting. So what was that strategy you were having?
That one was dumb luck.
I was surprised.
Because I call this team my Holy Trinity, because I went in. I loved AJ Brown. I had AJ Brown all my drafts, especially ones that I could pick. So I think I got AJ Brown first, but maybe not. I'm not 100% sure. And so I think the guidelines that you print off and what their value should be based on the scoring method and the total budget and that stuff like that. So he was supposed to go 45. It paused and it stalled at 37, and I got him. I'm like, all right, cool. Got my anchor. And then somebody brings up Jamar Chase. Well, in auction drafts, part of the thing, we call it price enforcing. You're not, somebody's not at the price you think they should be, even if you don't want to buy them, you keep popping it up an extra buck so that it gets into a value that if you want him, it's worth it, but you're not going to get a steal. Well, in the thing that I had, him and Justin Jefferson were both supposed to go for like $60. So I'm at 47, and the place goes quiet. I get Jamar Chase now for 47. Oh, okay. Then Justin Jefferson comes up, and the same exact thing happened. I bid 47. I'm just, everybody's back and forth, 44, 45, 46, 47. Crickets. Going once, going twice, sold. Now I have Jefferson, Chase, and AJ Brown, the Holy Trinity. And everybody just kind of looked around like, what just happened? How did Bob get all 3 of those guys? What are we doing? And so, that team is 5-0.
Well, of course they are.
And now, but Jefferson went down, so I'm kind of worried. But yeah, so but I also drafted Goddard and Justin Herbert. So now my running backs are a hodgepodge, but they're doing well enough that
they're getting you by.
Yeah, the Holy Trinity is doing their job, but now I'm down Jefferson, so I need somebody to pick that up for a few weeks. But even if I can go 2-2 the next 4 weeks, and then when he comes back, the key is to make the playoffs. But yeah, it's been surprising.
The whole auction draft thing, that terrifies me. Okay,
yeah,
it terrifies me. Everybody says it's so much fun. I like auctions, so I'm thinking that I think I would like it, but I don't know. We'll have to see. It's baby steps here, Bob. It's baby steps.
Yeah, okay? No, it is. But no, if it it's one of those where start it with a bunch of friends, or just do an online auction where you're not. The live thing can get overwhelming, because you're sitting beside the people you're betting against. But it really, and Greg is 100% right, it's the most fun. But if you do it online, you don't have that same anxiety, because you're not listening to, you're not there in that same room with people. There you're just bidding on, on the screen, so you can at least learn. But it's a very tough process. It's hard to walk in and be good at auction drafts. You kind of have to know the people. You have to know who's going to go for what. You need to know when you need to pull the trigger for that extra buck, because if you don't, because the worst habit or the worst mistake is let's say there's 3 really good running backs left, right? And you're bidding on the one that you like the most, but you feel like, well, I'll just let this person take him and I'll get one of the other 2. Well, the problem is one of the other 2, everybody else now wants them, and now you only have 2. And then if you wait, say I'll pass on that one to go to the next one, you might pay more on that person than you would have paid on the first one. So that's where that strategy gets really hairy. And I've just, again, playing for as long as I have, I always do better in auction leagues than I do in snake drafts.
Hey, at the expo, I walked into the auction draft just to, kind of spectate there, and it was intense. Like, it was intense. Like, I had to leave. I'm like, this is crazy. I remember seeing Howard Bender was in that one, and I was just like, oh, hey, look, there's Howard, But I'm just like looking at all these people, and it was just, I'm like, okay, this is too much.
That's what I said. Jameson, yeah, it's so similar to poker. It is.
Yeah, no, it is, because you kind of have to
on Wednesday at the kickoff. Yeah. So it's always a blast. Like, for me, it was really mesmerizing. I was sitting there watching how every single one have a different strategy. It's really beautiful to watch. It's really amazing. Wendi, next time you should sit and watch. Like, I don't play it, but it's really beautiful. And to see Bob go with 3 and all his money went away, I'm like, oops, what's gonna happen next? Like, he doesn't have money anymore. So
because I'm usually not that guy. I'm usually the person that buys a lot more, I'll say $15 to $35 people, not $40 to $50 people, because that's what they call stars and scrubs. You overspend on 3 or 4 players, but then the rest of your guys are going to be scrubs. You just have to hope and pray that one of them work out, or a few of them work out. So yeah, it's. Do
you play any DFS, Bob?
A little bit. The consistency model doesn't really work well in DFS. But I do more prop bets than I do DFS.
Okay. Yeah, I just can't figure the whole DFS thing out. I look at other people's rosters. I'm like, how did they fit all those people in there? I'm not able to do it.
Salary caps and different. It's definitely a unique. People who are good at it are good at it. Because of they know how to play it. They know which player. I mean, really, what it comes down to is you're kind of guessing that is going to be a big week for that player, regardless of how much you're spending.
Yeah.
So, if you get, the problem is if, let's say you pick Tyreek Hill and he has a down week, your team's shot probably because
you spent all your money on him.
He's the second highest, if not the first highest wide receiver in price. If he doesn't go off for his normal 25 points,
you're screwed. Just say it, Bob. You're screwed.
Bob, it looks like you have a favorite team, but my question is gonna be: if you could be any football player in history, which one would you be and why?
That's such a wild question. So actually, my favorite team is the Browns because I live in Ohio.
Yes,
this is my. I always say this is my adopted team.
That's
because
cool.
in the 70s, as a Browns fan, you either hope the Browns win or the Steelers lose. One of 2 things. The Browns back then could beat the Steelers, but the Raiders could. And so I kind of added them as my second team as a kid because then they were in the playoffs and they would always give the Steelers run for their money. And sometimes they beat them. Sometimes they would win a Super Bowl. And so that's kind of that. But my favorite player of all time was Fred Biletnikoff, played for the Raiders back in the 70s, because I looked at him as I could be him. Like, he was only 5'10", 5'11", 180, 90 pounds, wasn't super fast, wasn't super, had great hands. He was the guy they relied on in 3rd down and 6. He was getting the ball. He played slot. He was just, and he played for the Raiders. And so, that team was all about parties and fun. And, they would have got their asses in big trouble if there was cell phones and internet back then. And I always just love the just win. You know, that was Al Davis' thing. I don't care what you do during the week, but you better win. So you want to be hungover coming to the games, which a lot of them did. You better still go out there and perform your best and win. If you don't win, we have a problem. You know, so that was where that whole just win baby comes from, is just, I don't care how you do it, just win.
Just win. So. That's awesome. And what team would you avoid? What team? What football team? Yeah, would you avoid?
Who do you not like? Who's your big rival?
Well, I mean, obviously,
say Chiefs.
No, it would have to be the Steelers. But I respect them for their talent, their coaching, their ownership. You know, as bad as, you know, we don't like the Steelers, you got to respect them for what they've done. You know, even nowadays, even with Mike Tomlin, been their coach a long time, you just have to respect, they get the job done. Even when they have not so great teams, they still seem to find a way to win through whether it's drafting or free agents or whatever. As much as I hate them, you got to respect them.
My husband likes the Steelers. I don't know why. I'm a Dolphins fan. I was a Dolphins fan because Dan Marino. I mean, when Dan Marino came along, I'm like, oh, I like the Dolphins. And it's just kind of stuck with me this whole time. So I do have another Expo question because I'm really curious. How did you get Des Bryant to come to the Expo?
Oh, we've known each other for years. No.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, trust me. It was so not this past year. This is 2022. You guys all know who Laquan Jones is, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Laquan Jones lives down, I think, in the Dallas area. And he just happened to, I don't know if he was friends or just a business acquaintance with the business partner for Des. His name's Daniel. And so Daniel had reached out to Laquan and said, hey, Des wants to be more involved in the fantasy industry. He's got a new game that he's coming out with, but he just sees a lot of value in this industry. So tell me the two biggest events or things or whatever that Des could be a part of to get exposure for his future game and be a part of the community. And Laquan said two things: Scott Fish and the Expo.
Oh, that's awesome.
So a week before the 2022 Expo, Dez's person calls me. We have a Zoom call together. And Des was like, yeah, it sounds like a really cool thing. Laquan really loved it. You know, I'd really like to be a part of it. I'm like, well, it's this next Saturday. He goes, oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we can pull it off this year, but definitely keep in touch. So I did. And so I had, you know, so 2023 comes, I talk with Des and this partner again and all this stuff. And he's like, I'm ready. I'm going to
were you mind blown over this?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I was like, well, he's just like, I'm talking to Des Bryant on his own.
I was say, you thought you were nervous talking to me. You got to see me when Des is on the screen, and I'm just sitting like, I'm talking to Des Bryant right now. And he's really excited about my expo. And so when we had another chat, then he's like, I want to be in. I want to, you know, tell me what I can do. I'm like, damn well, please, basically.
Yeah.
So we worked out a deal where, you know, I didn't pay him. He didn't pay me. It was, you know, you come in, bring your people. And, you know, and I said, oh, by the way, we have a flag football tournament. And he's like, all right, can I be in it? Oh, yeah, you can be in it.
Well, let me think about it, Des. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
I said, you're in. And like I said, he blew everybody away by being the quarterback.
Yeah.
And yet they still won. And you know, he
had a good team.
Yeah, very good team. But you know, he went out on Twitter and Instagram and all those and said it was one of the greatest days of his life.
You know what? He was so great.
Oh, he was so
I don't
amazing.
care who you were. He was going to stay there and do the pictures and the signings and
He was
smile
doing
through it
videos,
all.
Wendy. He
It
was
was
doing videos
amazing.
for people, like
Yeah.
facing, like face. Yeah, he was doing
Yeah.
videos for kids
Yeah.
and people. It was amazing to hear. It was really
And-
nice.
I was already a Des Bryant fan from
Yeah.
back in the day, but that
Sure.
that solidified it for me. And you know what? He followed me on Twitter.
Third place, Greg is saying. No, they didn't. By the way, Wendy, you made my friend so happy because she is a Dolphin fan too. Susan.
Yes, I see
The
that.
Dolphins.
Yes. Hey, we have a
We're
good
happy.
team here, man. We have a damn good team. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. But yeah, that I think Dez's whole attitude and because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if he's just going to come in and just be like, "Yeah, I'm Des Bryant. I'm so
Yeah.
cool." And,
Yeah, no.
and he was like complete opposite. You know, people just raved about it, put it all over, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. You know, and Lisa Ann being there too was a big deal. I mean, she has so many followers, so that was awesome as well. And she did a lot of stuff. So yeah,
she was great. She really was, Bob. I mean, same thing, you know, like I said, no one was off limits.
Yeah.
You know, she would stand there and talk to you as long as you wanted to. It was great.
Yeah, no, she was fabulous too. But
if you want to change one thing about this word, this whole word, Bob, what would it be?
World? WRRD?
Yeah, I have an accent and my son laughed at me.
I see that.
So.
Yeah, I recognize that. That's why I was like, change this whole word. I'm like, what word am I changing?
The world.
I mean, obviously, you know, the whole fighting wars, you know, we got this stuff going on in Israel now.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking. You know, the Ukraine and Russia, it's just like, come on, people. Can we just be over this stuff? You know, why are we being so petty? What are we worried about? Why do we have so much hatred and racism and all this stuff? And it's just like,
thank you for
just
saying
stop.
that.
You know, yeah, it's just not uncalled for. You know, back in the day when everybody wanted to flex their muscles about they had more nuclear wars and this, look, we can all this whole world can be blown up in easily 15 seconds with press of 3 or 4 buttons somewhere in the world. Just stop. Just stop.
I'm Lebanese and I lived 30 plus years at war, and Israel is like in the border with Syria and Lebanon. It's awful what's going on. It's awful.
Yeah,
like
it really
hopefully
is.
Peace will be everywhere soon. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
We have one more question before we get over this. Do you want to ask one more, Wendy? Before I ask my last one, do you want to go first?
All I'm saying is I could sit here like a kid and just listen to Bob talk all day long. So, you know, just everything you've done for the whole industry and just being a great person. You're just a great person as well. So, I just want to let you know that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And like I said, I just love all the new things, all the new people like you folks that are getting out there and taking a chance. You know, when people ask me about, you know, why did you do this and why did you do that? And I said, because nobody else did, you know, and I just felt like, why not? You know, I mean, that's how the expo started. Basically, a bunch of people came back from it was 2019 and people came back from the Tony Romo thing. I forget, it was late May, early June, and they said it just sucked. There was no fantasy stuff, even though they said there would be. And somebody said, why don't we have something like this for us? And I said, okay, you want to come to Canton? Because I'll do it. I'll put it on. I've already got these guys coming in for the King's Classic. You want to just put it on an expo the next day? Yeah, sure. That's, you know, so yeah, it's just great when I see people doing something that they didn't know they could do. Didn't realize they could do it so well.
We wouldn't be doing this without you.
Yes.
Well, and again, those kind of things just make me feel all warm and fuzzy all over because I never had that intention, but I'm really glad it worked out that way. A lot of people have gotten jobs in the industry and met new friends and people, and And, you know, I just did it because I wanted everybody to have a place where we could all share our knowledge and talk about our different genres, whether it's Dynasty or, you know, redrafts or whatever, and hoping that people would show up. And like you said, the first year was 75 people. I thought it was cool. And then COVID came and I thought we'd never pull this off again. And then 2021 came and I said, all right, guys, well, we've got vaccinations. You guys want to do this expo still? Yeah, sure. And 500 people showed up. And it just blew my mind. And, you know, last 2 years we've been at 750. You know, maybe we'll hit 1,000 somewhere down the road.
I'll bet.
But if only 750 to 1,000 people show up every year and everybody has a great experience, I don't care if we hit 5,000.
Why not, right?
It is what it is, you know? And so, you know, and I asked for recommendations because I'm like, well, maybe there's things that I could do that'd be different. And I'd love to do them all, but obviously we can't because we have so much in the
week. The shuttle bus was great.
Yeah, we're going to do better on that one, though. A lot of people...
There was a few hiccups. Okay, there was a few hiccups, but all in all, when it was running correctly, it was great.
Well, the problem was there was only one bus. And I thought it would be enough because I feel like you can get around Canton pretty quick, but I live here. Yeah. This guy... I don't know
took the long way. No matter where you were going, he took the long way, Bob.
Yeah. It's like all of these hotels should be right off a highway, get in the bus, get on, and let's go. So I've got a local company I've talked to in the past. What I'm going to do is get a bunch, like 4 or 5, that'll have specific, like there'll be one that just does this hotel to the event and back for 2 hours, before, during, before, and 2 hours at closing time or whatever. I think it'll work out better so that people don't feel like they have to wait to go the loop.
Yeah.
You know, because
if you weren't at the first hotel, you were in for a ride.
Yeah, right. So you know, that's, again, tried it out. The bus thing, I think people like the idea of.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, I'm going to try to work with somebody. Yeah, I'm going to try to work with that same company and see if they could do. Again, I don't want to make any money off it. I want them to charge and do runs from Cleveland Airport down here and back.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Oh,
there would be so many people that, you know, it's $100 just for one way from Uber from Cleveland down.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if I can tell this company, look, you can charge these people $50 each way, and you'd still make money, and they'd still be happy because it's half price.
That's a great idea.
Again, I don't care about me making money on it. I just let them. Yeah. You run it. You make as much money as you can make, and just provide this service for these folks. So we're definitely going to be talking about that this year to improve on that, because I think that is something that can be very beneficial for everybody.
Before we let you go, there's a rumor going around that you're going to bring Zumba into the expo.
There is. And surprisingly enough, because it's the person that's got it right on her wall behind her, that we have to have the Zumba expert. And yeah, so like I said before, I don't know when you're going to find people sober enough to do this, but if you can pull that off.
Wine and Zumba?
There you go. Yeah. So yeah, there's all kinds of, like you said, I'm sure you could do it at Gervasi. That's a cool place. I mean, and that was one thing we're going to look into this year, is try to get some things with Gervasi. Have either one of you been there since you've been in town? When you went in town?
I don't think so.
No.
So Gervasi is this. It's amazing. It's an amazing place, smack dab in the middle of a bunch of houses. This person bought 150 acres, maybe even more than that. And they built this just amazing place that looks like you're at Tuscany, Italy. Yeah. Everything is top-notch tile, gorgeous, from pavilions to a piazza deck. There's a lake. There's crush house that does, wines. They make their own wine. They have their own distillery. They have their own spas and wine caves. And it's just like you just don't imagine that you're in a suburb of Canton, Ohio.
I'm hanging out with you next year.
Yeah, so it's my wife's favorite place. I can take her there every day. She wouldn't complain.
We
And
spoke about that.
my wife does Zumba, so you definitely need to get
All
her.
right, hey, you already got a class person there.
Yes.
You already have someone for the class.
Getting her away from the check-in part may be difficult, but anyway,
awesome.
so yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. I'm always open to new and fun things as long as I don't have to be in charge of it.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't do it, but a few people did. There was a local ninja place that had a thing set up like Ninja Warrior, and they actually had a competition. I think the guys from Coffee Shop Sports won or something. But yeah, you had to get through a course, and there was like, and even had a little bit of like football combine, high jump thing and broad jump and all kinds of stuff like that. So, didn't get a lot of people go to it, but I just thought it was a cool idea.
Yeah, it's cool that you try different stuff.
Fun. So, whether you do it Friday afternoon while they're doing the poker tournament when people are in town, or whenever, the tough part is going to be finding the right time, the right place, and get as many people there as you can. But I think it's fabulous.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Well, Bob, thanks again. For coming on the show. Can you let people know where to find you just in case they're unsure?
If they're unsure, they should go to that Twitter right there at Bob_Lung. Also at the FF Expo is on Twitter, at Big Guy FS for fantasy sports, Big Guy Fantasy Sports for the weekly stuff, all the tools and that kind of fun stuff. And then thefantasyfootballexpo.com. You can at least go there now, put in your email address, and you'll get a notification when tickets go on sale Super Bowl weekend. So we've already got the colors. We're going to be the Browns colors this year. Last year was the Chargers. Everybody loved that colors. But we go back and forth between a dark and a light color each year just to kind of mix things up. Always keep some kind of football kind of team theme. But so we're doing that this year. But again, ladies, thank you for having me on. I'm honored that you love me and enjoy everything that I do. And I'm happy to keep doing it, and just honored and blessed that you folks are out there, enjoying my dream. So it's always been a dream that this is going to work out, and so far so good.
What a game changer. Bob Long, thank you so much. Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate you.
Yeah, so hopefully we see everyone next week, and I will announce our guest for next week. She will be Queen Bonnie. I'm so excited for her to come on. I know you know Queen Bonnie, right, Bob? Yep.
She was in Queen's Classic this year.
Yeah, so she's a rock star. So we're going to have her on.
Without Queen Bee. So,
all right, Carla.
Thank you so much. Have a great night, you guys. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.